All right, here we have a hand from PokerStars 1-2. We are in the small blind with pocket eights. We get a small raise up from middle position here. This player, we played 1,000 hands with them. They VPIP, voluntarily put money in the pot 35% of the time. Percent raise 16%, 3-bet 1%. So 3-bet stat is very low, but otherwise very loose aggressive, very active. Bet sizing is on the smaller side. We then get the next villain in line to go ahead and call. This is more of like a tight aggressive regular type player. I think they're a like slight loser in terms of like our history with them. Not a proven winning poker player. We get another call here from the cutoff, and this is another player where they play pretty wide, VPIP 26%, percent raise 12, 3-bet 2. So pocket eights, I opt to go ahead and call from the small blind, and this is one of those situations where GTO I think will generally tell you, which I think GTO is more effective for heads up, but GTO will generally tell you like 3-bet or fold in the small blind. But given the fact that we're going to be going 4 ways and at least 4 ways, the player left behind me does 3-bet a fair amount, but I feel like you have to be really strong to want to 3-bet in this spot with this much money in the pot. You're going to be playing out of position. That might not help you realize your equity. It is kind of a set mining move, which I think people can debate the efficacy of this, like if I should be folding or 3-betting here. Pocket eights, I mean, it's just one of those spots where it's tough to justify either a fold or a 3-bet, so just opt to go ahead and call. Villain calls as well here, so we flop the set. Obviously, this is very good. I don't want to lead out here, even though we're playing 5-way. I'm just a little bit worried about maybe scaring people off or, giving people a chance to just call. I think I'm leaning towards a check raise here. I do think there is some merit to going ahead and leading. Obviously, I wouldn't lead or donk bet, as it's commonly referred to here, if it was heads up and I wasn't the open raiser. But given the fact that this, and the other thing worth noting here from like a theory standpoint is that the reason why you don't lead from out of position whenever you're the pre-flop caller, or just, well, yeah, I guess it's the only time. But anyway, so the only time you wouldn't be doing that because most boards, the villain is going to have, or the open raiser is going to have the range advantage and the nut advantage, meaning more of those super strong hands are in their range. Here, that isn't the case. Like pocket eights, pocket nines, pocket fours, those like jack queen of hearts, like hearted flush draws, like stuff like that. It's not just in the open raiser's range, right? Like on an ace high board, the open raiser kind of always has the advantage. And I think Jonathan Little, in one of his books, talked about how whenever he's playing heads up and someone donk bets or leads into him, he'll always just raise, give him the bad news, so to speak. But it's because a lot of times people do that as like a see where I'm at bet, kind of try to feel you out, and they do it with those marginal hands. It's obviously not a very strong play, but whenever going multi-way, the strategy differs. I know that's a lot of detail there, but anyway, I go ahead and check. It checks around, which you don't love because, well, I mean, it makes it a little bit less likely someone has a heart draw, but you also don't love it for the fact that, now we've got 4-5, so someone could have 6-7, someone could have 2 hearts. There are a lot of potential draws and stuff that could get you into trouble. I opt to bet here, go a little bit on the bigger side. We get 2 callers, so the open raiser, who plays pretty wide, goes ahead and calls. Worth noting, this player, 3,000 hands, their full continuation bet is 36%. Obviously, this isn't a continuation bet, but it shows that they played pretty wide pre-flop, and then they tend to stick around a while, which playing live is one thing, but playing online, you're just going to get burned. And then the button opts to go ahead and call as well here. So now, great card for us here with this 5. We now have the full house. It is just very unlikely, thinking about the way our opponents have played their hands, that anybody has a bigger boat, which would be pocket nines, or quads, which obviously is just so rare. So we're feeling very good about our hand here. Also worth noting that the flush draw filled in. So if anybody hits a flush, that is great for us. So obviously feeling pretty good here. Want to get value out of potential like hands that aren't boats or flushes or straights though as well. So want to go ahead and bet. Don't give it a chance to check through. Villain, who is the open raiser, who, like I said, plays pretty wide range, goes ahead and jams. Second villain folds. We have an easy snap call here. And then this villain flops over Jack Queen of Hearts. So, this is kind of like a complicated, well, it's not a super complicated multi-way spot. Multi-way can get a little bit dicey, and, the tendency really just to kind of play straightforward. I think you could debate kind of like the merits of some of my moves there, and I'm happy to do that. And it kind of depends on the table dynamics and who you're playing with and stuff like that as far as your logic, pre-flop, post-flop. But this, obviously the result is great. A lot of the hand examples I go through are hands that I win against not very good poker players, and I think it's, that's where your profit comes from, so it's worth just reviewing this stuff, and like I would say, mark that player down anytime they're at the table. Go ahead and sit down. But they hit their flush on the river. It's not even the nut flush. They also, full houses could be there. So it's, if I were in their shoes, I probably would have c-bet the flop, even though it's so multi-way, just because you have the heart draw and a gut shot. Turn fills in. I get as played his call there, and then the river. I think I would have just flat called. I don't think I mean, you raise there, you might get called by a lower flush. It's one of those you have to do the math, which the math equation is too complex for me to do quickly. But as far as what are you going to get called by that you have beat, and what are you going to get called by that beats you, and I think probably more often than not you're getting called by better. You're getting called by either a higher flush or a full house, and not by a lower flush, but it actually might be kind of close. So I don't know, maybe it wasn't a terrible move there. Also, I mean, their open raise is perfectly fine. They have a strong hand. Their open raise is just a little on the small side, and that's why I think that's why this hand went 5-way. Open raising to 3.5 big blinds as opposed to 2.5 big blinds can make a difference. And I think 2.5 big blinds is kind of more of a tournament sizing, or I think some cash games maybe run like that where people bet a little bit smaller, like higher stakes. I've noticed that's a thing. And maybe in other countries, like the playing style is just a little bit different. But I think pot size works best as far as exercising a little bit of fold equity and not having to play these multi-way pots where you get yourself into these tricky spots. So that's I think a lesson that that open raiser would want to take away. Thanks.